qualified, or such and such coach was the most qualified coach for the position. And me talking to many minority coaches, especially last year throughout the coaching cycle, this was the one solution, maybe not necessarily the way the NFL put this in, but this was the one problem that they all spoke to me about, was about the pipeline. It was about the pipeline that allows Scott Turner and Norv Turner to have jobs, or for Norv Turner to get Scott Turner on, for the Kyle Shanahans of the world to get jobs at low levels, for the Sean McVays, for even somebody like John Gruden, whose son's now a strength coach in the league, for him to have the pipeline and the connections to do certain things. What was happening in the NFL was you weren't getting African Americans, or you weren't getting minority on the bottom levels that were given opportunities to grow, that were given opportunities to become quarterback coaches or OCs, or weren't given opportunities to become defensive coordinators. Because what happens many times with African American coaches or minority coaches is that they're usually former players that they use to manage a room. It's a wide receiver room that's full of African Americans, that's full of black players. And instead of a coach having to deal with those players from a personality standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, they put someone in that room that has played the position, that can relay what things are going on, but more than anything, be able to deal with those guys. And it's not necessarily seen as an intellectual hire. It's not necessarily seen as a developmental hire. And so I believe doing something like this now, I also believe that some people are going to be like, you know what, screw those picks. I don't really care. I don't have to develop or do anything to get people to that point. But at least this is an initiative that says, you know what, there is a value in that. That is something that is missing. And I think just the simple acknowledgement that the pipeline isn't the same, that the pipeline isn't fair, that African American and minority coaches aren't treated the same from the bottom up is very important from an awareness standpoint. So hopefully these measures put in will help some of these coaches grow.
This is a good idea, but I need to point out how pathetic it is that you need to reward teams with draft pick compensation to help themselves. Look at the list of so-called minority or non-white or Anglican candidates, coaches in the league. Mike Tomlin, one of the all-time great coaches, never had a losing season, even last year without his quarterback, right? Ron Rivera, better than average coach. Look what Flores is doing in Miami. Last year, is this the worst team of all time? And this year already, look where they are. It reminds me when the color line was broken in 1947 with Jackie Robinson in the major leagues. You know what happened? They say the color line was broken. It wasn't like the league was integrated. You had a few black players. You know who they were? All-stars from the Negro Leagues. All-stars. And still, there were plenty of all-stars from the Negro Leagues who weren't in the major leagues, but were better than so many major leaguers. When you have to incentivize teams to help themselves, what does that mean? It means there's no incentive to do it now competitively. The NFL has created a situation with a salary cap, with parity and all this stuff, right? Where there's very little incentive financially, in fact, for an owner to try to win the Super Bowl. Really, he's going to make money any which way. The equity is going to increase in the team. The TV deal is going to be great. That's really more dependent on the market than anything. No, why does he have to do his best to win? And what it shows up in is hires, right? Like, if you exclude, if 75% of the league is African American, then you would assume that from the coaching ranks, you're culling from, 75% should be African American, right? Wouldn't you say? Why would you want to exclude, even if it was only 50%, why would you want to exclude half the population from a pool half as small? You are likely to find half as many good candidates for the job. And yet teams can operate this way, whether it's conscious or unconscious bias along racial lines. Teams can operate this way because there's really no incentive for them not to. They're not competitive enough. Their own personal feelings and how a candidate makes them feel or reminds them of themselves is more important to them than winning. To the point that, forget about social justice for a second, all right? Let's just talk football. To the point that the league has to say, we'll give you 2 good draft picks if you would even just put an African-American coach in the pipeline. Yeah, it's a good idea, but it's sad commentary.
Stephen A.
Well, there's no disagreement here.
The fact of the matter is that that's exactly what the case is, Max. It's sad commentary. It's sad. It's a sad situation because this is what it's called for. I don't know whether or not this is going to remedy the situation because, again, if you're a coach and you know you're getting the job under the guise of these ramifications being implemented in the event that you're not put in a position to succeed, then obviously that's going to create this notion, this belief that you're being assisted in order to get to this position. And they don't look at themselves. They don't look at the fact that, you know what, who you knew, your networking, how you cultivated resources and things of that nature may have facilitated things for you, how the people who look like you, share your same cultural background and what have you, assist greatly in you getting to where you want to get. Unfortunately, blacks haven't been in that privileged position for quite some time. And I think more importantly than anything else, you're seeing retreads. And that's really where things resonate with you. Nobody has a problem with the Sean Paytons, with the Andy Reeds, with the Bill Belichick's of the world getting their job. But look at how long it took Jason Garrett to lose his job as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Why? Because Jerry Jones liked you so much. We hear about that stuff all the time. We watch Anthony Lynn struggle in Los Angeles right now with the Chargers. Ryan, I think we all know he's in a world of trouble. You can't be 2-6 with a quarterback playing like Justin Herbert is playing and losing double-digit leads, even though the brother's throwing for over 300 yards, and still you're going to find a way to keep your job. But if that were a white coach, they'd be given a bit more latitude. So we see these kind of things happening time and time again, which means that there's a need to force change. And it's just a damn shame that these things have to be implemented in order to force the right things to happen. But it is what it is.
Let me tell you how stupid so many general managers are. Real quick, Ryan, may I just say, this is how stupid most general managers are. I brought up the integration of the major leagues, or so-called integration. Jackie Robinson breaks the color line. Then the only black players you saw in baseball, a handful, were all all-stars from the Negro leagues, right? And there were many all-stars that weren't there. So if you were a GM back then and you were really smart, you'd have an all-black team. Because every black player on your team would have been an all-star player, right? Not because you're favoring one group over another, but if that an entire population is untouched by anyone else, go take your pick. It's basically what the Dodgers did, turn themselves into a powerhouse to some degree. So same thing with coaching. If you have a team right now, you should have, considering what percentage of African-American coaches are all-star coaches or better than average coaches, because there are so few of them, right? It's only the best guys who get hired. You should have an all African-American coaching staff. You got an all-star team out there waiting to, and on top of that, you get draft picks every time you put one in the pipeline. This is a bonanza for anyone who's smart enough.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this, obviously the commentary is sad, but we all understand what it's about. We all understand what it is. And so it wasn't necessarily for me to talk about the commentary or talk about the state that we're in, but look at what these guys have to go through also when they get the job. If you look at a guy like Anthony Lynn, because I know a lot of times you get the comment, why don't they just go out and hire African-American coaches? It's because they understand that they have to win. And because that pipeline isn't built a certain way, some of those coaches haven't gotten those opportunities. They can't go out and hire a fully black staff just to be so guys have jobs. They can't go hire coaches that they worked with sons and different things like this. And so when you look at what Tony Dungy was able to do with the Jim Caldwells, with the Herm Edwards, with the Mike Tomlins, those are the type of things that we need to see done. And I believe that this pipeline can help that, where it doesn't have to be an African-American head coach to do it, where you could be someone like Bruce Arians, who I feel truly believes in this and believes in development and believes in the pipeline and believes in even hiring women. You have to incentivize some people to be that way, or you have to make it known and knowledgeable to everyone that this is an issue. And I think that this is just at least a step towards that.
Yeah, I just want to wrap by saying this, and I know we had Stephen Silas on recently, and Stephen A., you were so elated. I know you have a relationship with him, that he was hired as head coach of the Rockets, and I couldn't help but think, wow, 20 years as an assistant, he finally gets a head coaching job. He's African-American. And then I'm thinking about my team, the New York Football Giants, and I think Joe Judge has done an excellent job, but he had never been a coordinator. And we talk about that pipeline that you had mentioned, Ryan. So again, I'm happy the NFL is doing this. It's unfortunate that they have to, and I hope it's found effective.
Well, can y'all allow me to close by saying this? Stephen Silas, like you just pointed out, Molly, 20 years.
Yes.
You know what? The Houston Rockets were title contenders a couple of years ago. But now, and this is no knock against Tillman Fertitta at all. I just want to highlight this. But now that Steven Silas is there, what are we hearing? Is Russell Westbrook going to be traded? Is James Harden going to be traded?
Guys.
Can we retool? But when they were in a position to win the chip, he wasn't necessarily deemed the right man for the job. It was a guy in Mike D'Antoni who did a good job in Phoenix, damn good job, but nevertheless, a guy that had been given one opportunity after another after another.
You're so right. I'm glad you highlighted that. But yes, again, just it's unreal. All right, we'll leave it there. When we come back here, guys, we have trade talks in